Okay, I want to start. We're in a series about friendship. I just want to start by saying it can be tiring, can't it? Sometimes this church sorting things out, getting places early, making things happen. It can be tiring. And I was also thinking about friendship and thinking about people this week. I'm thinking, I just honestly, people can be tiring too. I don't know, like, whether you find that. Maybe you're not like me. Maybe you're like Mr. or Mrs. Extrovert and you're like, I just want to be around people all the time. But I feel sometimes just a little bit really, really tired of people. Like, I love people and all, and I feel like God's called me to people, but sometimes I do ask whether he might be calling me to an island off the coast of Scotland where there's beautiful whiskey and good food and a surfboard. I don't know, but I just wonder whether that could be in my future. I love people, and yet I get also very, very tired of people. I heard someone say to me a little while ago, church would be amazing if it wasn't for the people. And I was like, you can't be talking about our church, of course, but other churches, I can see how that would be true, right? Because people aren't always easy. And I get tired of people. I'm tired of people who always are thinking about themselves and they're never thinking about anyone else. I'm tired of that. I'm tired about people who turn up and they tell you all of their problems. It's like they just vomit all over you and they're like, thanks, and go away. I'm tired of those people. I'm tired of that guy in the sports car who always parks in the family spot at Tesco's. And then the mum with the pram has to walk from I'm tired of him. I'm tired of people. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I'm tired of my people. I'm tired of my family. And I say that like, and I want you to know I love Emma. I love Emma. She's the best one in this family. She really is. I love her. I love her so much. And I love my kids. I love Cole. I love Leo. I love Noah. I would die for my family. I would literally take a bullet for them. And yet I also sometimes wish I could have a holiday on my own. I don't know what that is. It makes no sense. I love them. And yet I also get tired. I get really tired of people. And I'm tired of myself. I'm tired of saying the wrong thing. And I'm tired of dropping the ball. I'm tired of wanting to help and messing up again and again and again. I'm tired, and I'm tired of other people. I'm tired of myself. And I think that it's hard. And I say this as an extrovert. Like, honestly, I said, like, last year it was my birthday, and Emma said to me, what do you want for your birthday? And I was just like, friends. just a room for the friends. If we could fill the room with live music and friends and pack it out and just stay till 2 a.m, that's all. I love being around people. And yet there's this strange thing inside me where I love people, and yet at the same time they're so exhausting because people can be tiring. And I want to just talk into this a little bit today. Because the paradox is, I think, that you can absolutely love someone and be exhausted at the same time. That love doesn't mean that your life is always going to be some Disney fairy tale, happy ever after, but that we actually have to learn what to do with the very real and sometimes very overwhelming frustrations and fatigue that come along the journey. So if you've got a Bible, don't think we've got it on the screen today. There are Bibles at the end of the row. I can't vouch for what translation they are. I have no idea. Risk it if you want. We're going to Galatians 6, verses 7 through to 9. This is a letter that a guy, early Christian missionary called Paul wrote, and he wrote it to a church. And this is what he says to them. He says, do not be misled. You cannot mock the justice of God. You will always harvest what you plant. Those who live only to satisfy their own sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. But those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. So what he's saying is, when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your friendships, you reap what you sow. You can't sow selfishness and expect to reap community. It doesn't work that way. You can't sow me-centeredness and expect to reap generosity. It doesn't work that way. If you're stingy, you'll reap stinginess. If you're isolated, you'll reap loneliness. If you're generous, you'll reap generosity. And if you invest in love, you will reap love. If you want to have the kind of community where you turn up and there's just an environment of love, the only way to get there is to sow seeds of love. He's saying you can't mock God. What you sow is what you reap. And then he continues, and maybe you'll resonate with this. Verse 9, he says, "So, let's not get tired of doing what is good. Let's not get tired of doing what is good, for at the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up." Let's not get tired from doing good. Emma and I started this church, my goodness, almost 6 years ago. And I remember that first year because it was intense. If any of you, and I know a bunch of you were part of this church at that stage, it was a lot, right? It was one thing after another, and everything really, really mattered at that time to me. Like the people who we were trying to care for mattered. What people thought about the church mattered. How good our social media was mattered. The venue mattered. The worship mattered. People's marriages mattered. Their mental health mattered. And I was so focused and so caring about all of these things that after 12 months of everything mattering all the time, I just fell apart. 1 year into planting a church, and I found myself completely exhausted, completely tired, and thinking, do I even have what it takes? And the madness is that I had spent years praying, planning, preparing to plant a church. I'm then planting a church, and I'm having dreams about escape. I'm dreaming about going somewhere else. I'm dreaming about joining the Church of England and getting a manse and comfort and all of these things. I was absolutely exhausted. And I had to stop, and I had to pull away, and I had to rest, and I had to get right. But what surprised me was that it was things that I loved that exhausted me. It wasn't the things that I didn't care about. It wasn't my neighbour down the street who doesn't talk to me. It wasn't my neighbour who pops my kids' football when they go over the fence because he doesn't want to give them. That doesn't bother me. I don't care. It doesn't stress me out. But the things that I do care about, they're the things that tire me. They're the things that I worry about. They're the things that stress me out. I get stressed out about pastoral care. I get stressed out about evangelism. I get stressed out about how we worship God. Why? Because it matters to me so much. I get stressed out about my family. Why? Because they matter to me so much. We very rarely overwork and overstress and over-obsess around things that don't truly matter to us. And so we have this challenge of love, where love can be exhausting. A few years ago I heard an American preacher tell a story about a river in the Alps. And if you can imagine it, up in the mountains, this beautiful village, and it had this crystal clear water flowing through the village. Children would jump in the water and play. They would drink from the water. There were herons that would come and land in the water. When you put your feet in, fish would swim around your feet in the water. It was beautiful. The village was healthy. It was crisp and pure. And in the village there was a man, the keeper of the river. And every single day he would travel up above the river, out of sight. And he would take the sticks and the twigs that were starting to build up, and he would clean the river. He would take out anything that was dirty, anything that was wrong, he would remove from the river. And they had the most beautiful, refreshing river going through their village. Well, years went by. And one day the village council came together and they said, look, we've got roads that need fixing. We've got NHS bills that need paying. We've got other things that we need to use for our money. We're going to stop funding the old riverkeeper up in the hills because we just don't have the luxury of investing in him. And at first nothing changed. But after a few weeks, a few months went by, the river started to change colour. Twigs started to build up, sticks started to build up in the stream. The river changed course, it went through farms, and the farm manure started to create boggy areas. The water changed colour. No longer did you see fish swimming in the water. The storks flew away and they didn't come back. People in the town started to feel more and more sick. And the town council looked at the river and they looked at the state of their town and they said, "We made a mistake. We need to change it." So they called up the river keeper and they said, "We want to employ you once again. Would you please return to our village? Would you please start cleaning the river once again?" And he did. And gradually, over weeks and months, that river went back to being fresh and to being alive and to being good. And the moral of the story is this: that stream is your soul, and you are the keeper. There's 4 things that I want you to realize today. Number 1, you have a soul. Number 2, nobody is responsible for your soul except for you. Number 3, you only have one soul, and that soul will be the only soul that you have for the rest of your life. And number 4, your relationships, your friendships, and the people all around you, the way that you love will be defined by the way that you look after your soul. Last week I said that we need to love first, and that's absolutely true. We do. We need to be people who go out and love others. And yet what we will find is, unless we learn how to look after our souls, then we won't get the fruit that we want to see. Paul says, don't get weary in doing good. Well, Jesus says it like this. He says, what good is it to gain the kingdom? What good is it to gain the world and to lose your soul? Often I read that verse and I think he's talking about Ferraris, and he's talking about like Apple Watches from your elbow to your wrist. He's talking about having all the luxuries, but I don't think that's what he's saying, really. What he's saying is, don't get so distracted by the external, by the world that's happening around you, by what everybody can see and experience. Don't get so lost in that you stop caring about the inner you, the deep parts of you. Don't forget your soul. And so really I want to give you 2 things that I think the Bible would want to say to us today. 2 things I hope will help. The first one is to persist. And maybe if you're tired, you're like, that's the last thing that I want to hear. I'm tired, I need to rest, I need to stop. But I want to say to you quickly, persist. Because Paul finishes, he says you shouldn't grow weary, but he says why you shouldn't grow weary. Because there's a harvest. You've sown the seeds. You've sown love. Just because you've sown love and all you've had back is grumpiness, don't stop sowing love. Just because you have forgiven and all you've had back is unforgiveness, don't stop sowing forgiveness. Just because you're helping people and all you get is pride or entitlement or narcissism, don't stop. Because the only way that we will change this world is if we are persistent. If we keep on going again and again and again. We have to be persistent with love. And we will see the fruit of that. So I want to challenge you to be persistent. But then the second thing I want to encourage you to do is to rest. We need to learn how to rest well. Rest before you think you need it. The moment you feel like you need to rest, it's too late. You should have already rested. And what I discover is that I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. I'm a better friend. I'm a better leader. I'm a better worker. I'm a better helper when I am well rested. And if that is true, then rest might well be the most important of all spiritual disciplines. We need to rest well to look after our souls. Sometimes we think that rest means escapism, like rest means my Scottish island, that we have to run away. And yet the truth is that there is a peace that exists right where you are. There has yet to been a time that God blesses anybody except exactly where they are. You don't need to run away to be rested. You can rest where you are. It's all about rhythms. If you spend all of your time giving out, it's like breathing. If you only breathe out, you'll asphyxiate. If you only breathe in, you'll suffocate. What we need is a rhythm of in and out, of receiving and giving, of resting and refilling and going and blessing and loving. It is all about the rhythms that we find and the rhythms that we create in our life. We live in a world full of shortcuts. Don't know if you realise this. This week I realised that when we put talks up online, I can press a button and AI can read my entire video and then summarise it for me and put up a summary on YouTube. There's a job I don't have to do anymore. Thank you. We live in the future, people. We have robots. I literally have a robot now that cleans my house. We told Leo we're getting a robot vacuum. He thought it was going to be like C-3PO coming in with a feather duster, or Crichton if you're a Red Dwarf fan. But we're like, no, it's like a little round thing that goes around, and it is wonderful. It is worth the investment. It wasn't cheap, but thank you, Jesus. I love it. We have robots. We have phones. In the old day, when I was a kid, if I wanted to hang out with a friend after school, do you know what I did? I knocked on his door. Excuse me, can John come out and play? That was risky. We don't have to do that anymore. We text them. Just phone someone. Just see what they're up to. In fact, you can just track them. I track Emma on my phone all the time. I'm allowed to. I'm not being a stalker. We're married. It's okay. But I don't have to. We don't wash the dishes anymore. We have washing machines that wash the dishes for us so that we can do more, we can have more time, we can live faster lives. I've got a microwave. I have no idea how it works, but I put beans in and they come out hot. It is amazing. We live in a world which allows us to do things faster, travel further, achieve more. You think that would make us more restful, but it doesn't. It makes us more stressful. But what we also have forgotten is that there are things in life that you cannot automate, you cannot get an app for, you cannot outsource, you cannot rush rest. It is impossible. Only you can take care of your soul, and it only takes the amount of time that it is going to take. There's no shortcut, there's no elevator button that you can press that will get you there. You have to make time. You need to breathe. You need to stop. You don't need to run away, but you do need to spend time in the presence of God, refilling your soul so that you can be human again. This is the picture we saw in the Garden of Eden. God and his creation, Adam and Eve, in harmony. And too often our lives are in chaos. And maybe you're even thinking, but Ben, I live a busy life. I've got half a dozen children who require a lot of attention. I just don't have time to rest. I don't have time to stop. I don't have time to pray. And I need you to realize that if you're truly that busy, you do not have time to not rest. Saying I don't have time to rest is a little bit like saying I don't have time to brush my teeth every day. And then your tooth falls out, you've got to go to the dentist. It doesn't work. God created the world with laws. And it's not like a law like driving 50 in a 30 where they might catch you or they might not, or you'll get a ticket. This is a law like gravity. What goes up must come down. You're created to rest. You need to stop. And so I just want to ask you, I guess, how rested are you today? How rested is your soul? For me, I've got 3 strategies. Yours could look a bit different. I doubt they'll look too different, but for me, I do 3 things. And honestly, I don't even know how I would still be in this game if I didn't do all 3 of these. The first one is I pray daily. Every single day. I don't want to brush my teeth more frequently than I brush my soul. I want to pray daily. And it might just be 5 minutes in the morning while I'm feeding Noah and I just pause and breathe. And I say, Lord, remind me of your presence. What are you doing today? And how can I be more in sync and more in step with you? I make sure every single day I stop and pray. And I want to do that at the beginning, not at the end. because it just affects everything else. I pray daily. Second thing that I do is I worship weekly. I know people can be tiring, but actually the solution isn't to run away from people. It's to come together in a community and focus our hearts on God. And as we worship weekly and we come together, what we find is that we start to transform those tiring cultures. We start to find persistence, perseverance, and grit. We start to build the kind of friendships that we really long for. The third strategy that I have is I try to have an adventure monthly. Now that one's not in the Bible, but I like it. And you don't have to do it. It could look like something else for you. But when I very first became a church leader, I met with a guy from the States, and he'd been in leadership for 30 years. And I said, what is the key? How did you make sure that you were still running this race in years to come? And he said, I found the one thing that filled my soul, and I put it in my diary every single month. And he said to me, what's that for you? And I was like, easy, climbing mountains. I need to have a little bit of risk of death once a month. I need to go somewhere without a map and feel a little bit lost and hope that it's going to be... I don't do it quite as much now because I've got the boys. I have to be a bit more responsible. But I pretend. I still try and trick myself that I might be going to die. But I need that. I need to feel alive. I need some adventure. I need to get into the water and fall off the surfboard a few times or something. And it fills my soul. What fills your soul? What is it that brings you back to life? I promise you it'll be something of prayer. I promise you it'll be something of worship. But whatever it is, you need to stick it in your diary first. Don't pencil it in, pen it in. If you don't use a pen or pencil diary, it's because we have robots that work for us. Do it whatever your system is. But I just want to challenge you. I just want to push you. That if you truly want to be the kind of person like I want to be, who has friends everywhere you go, if you really want to be the kind of person who can walk into any room and find people you can connect with, people who you can bless, people you can serve, people who you can encourage, you need to look after your soul. Be present, be proactive, be persistent, and be generous. People are tired, but that's okay. Friendships are tough, that's okay. They matter. We need them. We were created for them. So make sure you rest. Let me pray. I'm going to get Brian to give us some holy chords in a sec. But let's just pause a second. Maybe close our eyes. It feels like when it comes to responsibilities, when it comes to work, when it comes to even Netflix and entertainment, we can prioritize it. But when it comes to rest, we can be cavalier. When it comes to friendships, we can be mercenaries. And we have it all upside down. And I believe that God wants to turn our upside down kingdom back the right way around. I spent some time in a monastery a while ago and I read this passage and it says, I look to the mountains, where does my help come from? It comes from the creator of the heavens and earth. He doesn't sleep, he doesn't rest, he doesn't slumber. And so you need to know that when you have God with you, you don't need to lose sleep because you have a God who never loses sleep. You don't need to stress because you have a God who never stresses. If God doesn't care about it, then maybe you don't need to care about it quite as much. And if God does care about it,